I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Before giving evidence in an Irish court, most witnesses are required to swear an oath with those words of swearing by God. But could all that now be about to change? Because from last week, the government decided that witnesses will no longer be required to swear before God or make an affirmation when filing affidavits. The Law Society has said that these proposals put an end to what they call the embarrassing practice of a witness having to indicate their religious faith when making an affidavit. Our next guest and his group have been lobbying for this for quite some time, but they want to see much more change in this regard. Michael Nugent of Atheist Ireland is on the line. Good morning to you, Michael, and thanks for joining us. You've said it's a half step. It's welcome, but it's only a half step. So what else needs to be done? You've always talked about the need to remove God completely from our constitution.
Yeah, and I would also say remove atheism from the Constitution. And it's not just a question of God. The Constitution should have nothing to do with people's religious or non-religious beliefs. It should just deal with us as citizens. Now, the government has now accepted that with regards to affidavits, which is effectively if you're contributing to a court case, but from outside the court, so you swear this separately, that you don't have to say anything about your religious or non-religious beliefs. Now, the same applies in court, or should apply in court, and hopefully will now that they've accepted the principle. Because in court, not only does it breach your right to privacy and your right to not reveal your religious or non-religious beliefs, but it could prejudice juries or judges either for or against you, which is another problem.
You mean if you don't recognise God or believe in God, immediately it could prejudice your case? Is that what you're saying?
It could, yeah, and it could do either way. In fairness, an atheist might be biased against a religious person, or a religious person might be biased against an atheist. And it's nothing to do with why you're in court, what your religious beliefs are, or non-religious beliefs. They're your private conscience and nothing to do with the state. And the state has no business in asking you what your religious and non-religious beliefs in court.
Okay, and I should have pointed out, this is the case with affidavits, but it still applies that if you're a juror or a witness in court, you still have to take that oath and swear before God, and that is the case for newly appointed judges as well.
Yeah, it goes back to this whole Irish solution to an Irish problem thing. They seem to be taking it in steps, but they've accepted the principle that it is wrong to force people to reveal their religious or non-religious beliefs while swearing affidavits. And it's even more wrong if you're doing it publicly in a courtroom. There was a case at the European Court of Human Rights that found that and it was about swearing oaths in court in Greece, is that even by indirectly forcing people to reveal their religious or non-religious beliefs, that's a breach of your human rights to privacy and freedom of conscience. Right, okay. What more needs to be done? Where do you stop? How much more do Atheist Ireland suggest should change? Well, the big one, of course, is the fact that you have to swear a religious oath to become president or a judge or a member of the Council of State. And the member of the Council of State is quite significant, because that means that it includes the Taoiseach and the Tanaiste and other office holders. So a conscientious atheist or a conscientious Christian of a type of Christianity who opposes the swearing of oaths to God could not, in conscience, take up those positions. It's absolutely outrageous. If you had a situation where a religious person had to swear that there's no God in order to become Taoiseach or president, people would immediately realise that that's wrong. So now the difficulty with those oaths is that the wording of them is written into the Constitution. So it will require another referendum to remove those. Yeah, so I was just going to ask you, so there is a need for a referendum for any further change. Is that the case? Is that your understanding? There is on those particular oaths. The ones in court could be changed just by law, but the oaths for presidents, judges and members of the Council of State, which includes the Taoiseach and Tanaiste, have to have a referendum because the wording of the oath is written into the Constitution. And this has gone back as far, by the way, as 1996. The Constitution Review Group has called for this, back a quarter of a century ago. And there's a significant point as well that they said that why it's important in terms of the courts to have just a single non-religious declaration is that they said that if you had separate oaths, that you could choose between the two, particularly they said in terms of judges, that creates difficulties. It could create conflicts of interest by the impression that we have religious judges and non-religious judges.
Okay, well, you've turned it on, and I suppose this is something for people to consider in relation to swearing a religious oath, and you talk about judges and the president and such like, and you've turned it on the head and asked people to consider what the reaction would be if they were asked upon taking office, if they had to swear that there was no God, and that
you would immediately realise it's outrageous. It's, whether you believe there's a God or not, and you're perfectly entitled to believe there's a God or to believe there's not a God, but it's nothing to do with the state. All the state has to do is you should make a declaration to say that in the case of these jobs that you'll discharge your duties impartially and uphold the Constitution and the laws. And in the case of courts, you don't even need a declaration in court. The judge could just say you are legally required to tell the truth and it's a crime not to do so. Do you understand that? That's all you need to do in court, because people who are going to lie will lie anyway, and people who are going to tell the truth will tell the truth anyway. But the role of the court is to just say there are legal consequences.
So discrimination works both ways, as you say. Whether you believe in God or swear by God, or whether you don't, it is important that there is no discrimination inherent as a result.
And we say this about all our campaigns. For example, with regard to schools, we would be just as opposed to the state promoting atheism in schools as promoting religion in schools. We're not looking for the state to promote atheism in any areas. We're just saying the state should stay neutral between religious and non-religious beliefs.
Right, okay, very interesting. Michael, thanks for taking a call this morning. It's Michael Nugent of Atheist Ireland there.